Your paycheck isn't shrinking because of inflation or taxes or some conspiracy theory you read online. It's shrinking because you're bleeding money on things you think you own, but really, they own you. I've spent 17 years in investment banking watching wealthy people operate by completely different rules than everyone else. And the gap isn't about how much they earn. It's about what happens after the money hits their account. Picture someone making $95,000 a year. Good income, right? Now walk into their apartment, 75-inch television dominating the wall, $4,000 leather sectional, kitchen packed with appliances still in boxes, closets exploding with tag clothing never worn. This person lives 2 paychecks from disaster despite earning nearly 6 figures. Now picture someone making $52,000, half the income. Their apartment has space to breathe, modest furniture that gets used, kitchen tools that actually cook meals, clothes that fit in one closet because everything gets worn. This person has 18 months of expenses saved and invests 20% of every check. Same neighborhood, same rent, wildly different financial realities. The difference isn't discipline or budgeting apps or cutting out coffee. It's understanding something most people never calculate. Everything you own costs money twice. You see the price tag. That's cost number 1. But there's a second cost that keeps charging you long after the receipt fades. Storage, maintenance, mental bandwidth, and opportunity cost all add up to expenses you never agreed to pay but can't escape. That treadmill taking up 20 square feet of your apartment? In most cities, residential space runs $30 to $50 per square foot annually. You're paying $600 to $1,000 per year just to store exercise equipment that probably doubles as a clothing rack. The purchase price was a one-time hit. The space cost never stops. Or consider the boat in your driveway. The marine industry operates on a rule that annual maintenance runs about 10% of the vessel's value. Your $30,000 boat costs $3,000 per year in winterization, cleaning, registration, insurance, and repairs. Even if it never touches water, the ownership cost keeps running. But we're just getting started. Every possession you own occupies mental real estate. It needs cleaning, organizing, insuring, protecting, and eventually disposing. Researchers have documented that visual clutter elevates cortisol and reduces cognitive function. Your stuff is creating measurable stress. Your conscious mind doesn't even register. Then there's opportunity cost, which is where the real damage happens. That $15,000 home gym setup could have been $15,000 in index funds. Over 15 years, that money grows to $50,000 or more. You didn't buy a home gym. You traded future financial freedom for present convenience that you'll use maybe twice a week if you're disciplined. When you total these hidden costs, many possessions end up costing more to own than they cost to purchase. The price tag is just admission. The real expense continues indefinitely. This is why minimalists aren't depriving themselves. They've run the numbers. They've calculated the actual cost. And they've decided most things fail the value test spectacularly. Which brings me to the first principle that separates people who build wealth from people who just look wealthy. Calculate cost per use before buying anything. Take the total price and divide it by realistic usage frequency. This single calculation destroys impulse purchases instantly. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is cheaper in every meaningful sense. That $300 kitchen gadget you'll use twice annually, $150 per use. You're paying premium restaurant prices for mediocre home results. Meanwhile, a $2,000 mattress used nightly for 10 years costs about 55 cents per use. Extraordinary value for something affecting your health and energy every single day. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years costs less than $1 per use while saving money compared to coffee shops. The math cuts through marketing emotion and social pressure. It reveals actual value versus momentary appeal. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people focus on what they're buying. The real question is what you already own. Walk through your home and ask yourself something brutally honest about each item. If this disappeared today, would you spend money to replace it? That fondue set gathering dust? The bread maker you used once? The clothes unworn for 18 months? The honest answer is no. You wouldn't replace them. They exist through inertia, not intention. Impulse purchases, obligatory gifts, remnants of abandoned hobbies. These items have negative value. They consume space, demand mental energy, require maintenance, yet provide zero benefit. Every hour organizing them or cleaning around them is an hour stolen from activities that actually matter. What happens when you remove things that fail this replacement test is difficult to describe but immediately noticeable. Rooms feel larger. Decisions feel simpler. Cleaning takes half the time. You know where everything is because everything remaining has a purpose. Now, let me show you where people sabotage themselves without realizing it. There's a pattern among high earners who remain perpetually broke. They upgrade perfectly functional items simply because they're bored. The television works fine, but the new model has marginally better contrast. The phone operates flawlessly, but the latest release has a slightly improved camera. The car runs reliably, but this year's version has refreshed styling. These upgrades masquerade as improvements. They're wealth destruction wearing a progress costume. Never replace something that functions properly. That phone making calls, sending messages, running apps doesn't need replacement because a newer phone exists. The car reliably transporting you doesn't need replacement because your neighbor bought something flashier. This single policy saves enormous sums across a lifetime. Americans replace phones every 2 to 3 years while previous models work perfectly. Over 30 years, that pattern costs $30,000 to $50,000 in unnecessary purchases. Apply this across all categories where upgrade culture operates, and the lifetime waste exceeds $200,000. Define functional clearly. An item remains functional until it genuinely fails to serve its purpose. Boredom isn't failure. Novelty desire isn't failure. Newer alternatives existing isn't failure. Actual mechanical breakdown or genuine inability to perform required tasks is failure. Everything else is marketing convincing you to solve problems you don't have. Here's where it gets tactical. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance. Make spending easy and saving difficult, you'll spend. Make saving easy and spending difficult, you'll save. Engineer your environment so the right choice becomes the easy choice. Spending friction means removing stored credit card numbers from retailers, requiring 24 hours before any non-essential purchase, deleting shopping apps entirely, unsubscribing from promotional emails, avoiding stores without specific intended purchases. Saving ease means automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday, keeping minimal amounts in accessible checking, making contributions happen before you see the money, treating savings like fixed expenses rather than afterthoughts. These structural changes outperform willpower consistently. Willpower depletes throughout the day. Environment remains constant. Someone relying on willpower eventually fails when tired, stressed, or emotional. Someone who deleted shopping apps and removed stored cards simply cannot impulse purchase in that moment. Don't trust yourself to consistently make good decisions. Design systems making good decisions automatic. The 24-hour rule alone eliminates roughly 70% of impulse purchases. Most desires for objects fade within a day, if not immediately acted upon. Count your possessions regularly. This sounds obsessive until you actually do it. Counting forces awareness. Awareness prevents accumulation. Pick a category. Count items you own. Write it down. The numbers shock people who've never examined consumption patterns objectively. How many shirts do you own? Most guess low and discover 3 or 4 times their estimate. Kitchen gadgets, pairs of shoes, books you'll never read again. The count itself changes behavior. Once you know you own 47 shirts, buying another feels different. You're not adding a shirt. You're bringing your collection to 48. The absurdity becomes visible. Track key categories over time. Set maximum thresholds. Perhaps 30 clothing items total. Perhaps 15 books at any time. Perhaps one in, one out, where new purchases require removing something existing. These constraints prevent lifestyle creep. Without intentional limits, possessions expand to fill available space. With limits, each addition requires conscious decisions about what it's replacing. Most items people purchase get used intensively briefly, then rarely afterward. Newness excitement fades. Initial enthusiasm decreases. The item joins the collection of things owned but seldom touched. Test this pattern by renting or borrowing before committing to ownership. Want to try camping? Rent equipment for initial trips. Interested in woodworking? Borrow tools or use maker spaces. Considering a kayak? Rent several times first. This approach accomplishes two things. First, it reveals whether enthusiasm is genuine or temporary. Many interests fade after initial exploration. Better discovering this while renting than after purchasing equipment collecting dust indefinitely. Second, it clarifies exactly what you need. First-time campers often buy too much or wrong things. Renting lets you learn before committing. When you eventually purchase, you buy precisely what's necessary rather than guessing. Closets and garages across America contain dusty remnants of abandoned hobbies. Ski equipment from phases when they thought they'd ski regularly. Photography gear from when they imagined becoming serious photographers. Music equipment from bands that played 2 shows. Avoid becoming museums of past enthusiasm. Test interests before investing. Maintain flexibility to explore without ownership burden. But there's something bigger happening here that most people completely miss. Every possession connects to other possessions. A boat requires a trailer, hitch-equipped vehicle, storage fees, maintenance supplies, safety equipment, and appropriate clothing. What looked like a single purchase actually triggered a cascade of supporting expenses. This is the lifestyle multiplier. Major purchases multiply into ecosystems of related costs. The true price is never just the item itself. Watch how this unfolds with common acquisitions. A home gym requires flooring, mirrors, storage solutions, ventilation considerations, and often renovations to make space suitable. A pool requires chemical supplies, cleaning equipment, covers, furniture, maintenance tools, and frequently landscaping to complement installation. A motorcycle requires gear, storage, maintenance equipment, and often a truck or trailer for transportation to riding locations. Calculate the full ecosystem cost before any major purchase. That $5,000 purchase might actually represent $8,000 or $12,000 when all multiplier expenses are included. This full accounting often transforms what seemed reasonable into something clearly excessive. The multiplier effect works in reverse too. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates entire categories of related expenses. Selling the boat means no more storage fees, insurance, registration, maintenance, or towing costs. The savings extend far beyond the item's value. Define enough before you start earning. High earners get trapped constantly because they never define what enough looks like. So they keep purchasing more without ever arriving at satisfaction. Their income increases, so they upgrade their lifestyle. The new lifestyle becomes normal, so they need another income increase to feel progress. This cycle continues indefinitely. People earning $300,000 feel just as financially stressed as people earning $80,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded alongside income. Break this cycle by defining enough before you start earning. Decide in advance what kind of home is sufficient. What kind of car meets your needs? What level of material comfort constitutes genuine satisfaction? Then earn toward that target rather than constantly moving the goalpost. This might mean deciding a $350,000 home is enough even if you eventually could afford $600,000. A $30,000 car is enough even when colleagues drive $70,000 vehicles. Your current wardrobe is enough even as income could support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates a finish line. Without it, You're running an endless race where lifestyle expansion always outpaces income growth. With it, you reach a point where additional income flows entirely to saving and investing rather than consumption. The person who defined enough at 60,000 of annual spending and then started earning 150,000 builds wealth at extraordinary rates. The $90,000 difference between income and enough goes directly to financial freedom. Meanwhile, someone earning the same 150,000 but constantly redefining enough upward might save almost nothing. Measure wealth by optionality, not accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have: houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of success. Measure it differently. Measure it by what you can choose. Can you leave a job destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well but compromise your values? These options represent true wealth. They're only available to people who've built substantial margin between income and expenses. The person earning 200,000 but spending 195,000 has almost no optionality. They're chained to their income requirement. The person earning 80,000 but spending 45,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take risks, and make choices based on preference rather than financial necessity. Optionality requires liquid resources more than physical possessions. The money tied up in a car you don't need is money that can't buy your freedom when you need it. The home equity locked in excess house is equity that can't fund a career transition or extended sabbatical. Each purchase isn't just exchanging money for an object. It's trading optionality for possession. Is this item worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your life? The minimalist rules aren't about suffering or deprivation. They're about recognizing that most consumption doesn't actually improve life satisfaction. Research consistently shows that beyond a baseline of security and comfort, additional purchases contribute minimally to well-being. Yet most people spend as if happiness scales linearly with spending. That apartment belonging to someone earning 52,000 with 18 months of savings belongs to someone applying these rules consistently. They didn't get there through exceptional income. They got there through exceptional clarity about what actually matters. Both lifestyles are available to you regardless of what you currently earn. The choice is simply whether you want to own your possessions or whether you're comfortable with your possessions owning you. The math strongly favors the first option. A boat needs a trailer. The trailer needs a vehicle with a towing package. The vehicle needs higher insurance. The boat needs storage when you're not using it. Storage needs monthly fees. The boat needs maintenance supplies. It needs safety equipment. It needs winterization, registration, repairs that come unexpectedly. What looked like one purchase just multiplied into an entire ecosystem of ongoing expenses. This is the lifestyle multiplier effect, and it destroys more budgets than any other financial mistake. Major purchases never exist in isolation. They multiply into cascading related costs that continue indefinitely. A home gym seems straightforward until you factor in flooring, mirrors, storage solutions, ventilation upgrades, and often full renovations to make the space functional. A pool requires chemicals, cleaning equipment, covers, outdoor furniture, maintenance tools, and usually landscaping work to make it look presentable. A motorcycle demands gear, storage, maintenance equipment, and frequently a truck or trailer for transportation to riding locations. Calculate the full ecosystem before committing to any major purchase. That $5,000 item might actually represent $8,000 or $12,000 when you include everything it requires to function properly. This full accounting transforms seemingly reasonable purchases into obviously excessive ones. But the multiplier works in reverse too. Eliminate one major possession, and you often eliminate entire categories of related expenses simultaneously. Sell the boat and storage fees, insurance, registration, maintenance, and towing costs all disappear together. The savings extend far beyond the item's sale price. Now, here's what traps high earners more than anything else. They never define what enough looks like, so they keep purchasing more without ever arriving at satisfaction. Income increases, lifestyle upgrades to match. The new lifestyle becomes a normal baseline. Now they need another income increase to feel any sense of progress. This cycle continues without end. People earning $300,000 feel identical financial stress to people earning $80,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded right alongside their income growth. Break this destructive pattern by defining enough before you start earning more. Decide in advance what kind of home is sufficient for your actual needs. What kind of car genuinely meets your transportation requirements? What level of material comfort constitutes real satisfaction for you specifically? Then earn toward that target instead of constantly moving the goalpost further away. This might mean deciding a $350,000 home is enough even when you eventually could afford $600,000. A $30,000 car is enough even while colleagues drive $70,000 vehicles. Your current wardrobe is enough even as income could support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates an actual finish line. Without it, you're running an endless race where lifestyle expansion always outpaces income growth. With it, you reach a point where additional income flows entirely towards saving and investing rather than consumption. Someone who defined enough at $60,000 of annual spending and then started earning $150,000 builds wealth at extraordinary rates. That $90,000 gap between income and enough goes directly toward financial freedom. Meanwhile, someone earning identical $150,000 but constantly redefining enough upward might save essentially nothing despite the impressive income. Measure wealth by optionality, not accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have. Houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of success. Measure it differently. Measure it by what you can choose. Can you leave a job that's destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well but compromise your values? These options represent true wealth. They're only available to people who build substantial margin between income and expenses. Someone earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 has almost no optionality. They're chained to their income requirement. Someone earning $80,000 but spending $45,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take risks, and make choices based on preference rather than financial necessity. Optionality requires liquid resources more than physical possessions. Money tied up in a car you don't need is money that can't buy your freedom when you need it. Home equity locked in excess house is equity that can't fund a career transition or extended sabbatical. Each purchase isn't just exchanging money for an object, it's trading optionality for possession. Is this item worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your life? Sometimes yes, often no. Practice cyclical decluttering rather than annual purging. Most people attempting minimalism do one massive purge. Feel great for a few weeks, then gradually accumulate back to their starting point. The purge feels productive. The gradual reaccumulation goes unnoticed. Within 2 years, they're right back where they started. Avoid this pattern through cyclical decluttering. Instead of annual massive purges, perform small regular reviews, weekly glances at incoming items, monthly evaluation of one category, quarterly assessment of overall accumulation trends. This cyclical approach catches accumulation early before it rebuilds to overwhelming levels. Removing 3 items per week is manageable and sustainable. Removing 300 items once per year feels overwhelming and gets postponed indefinitely. The cyclical approach also maintains awareness. When you evaluate possessions regularly, you notice patterns. You see which categories tend to grow. You identify which emotional states trigger acquisition. You recognize which marketing tactics work on you specifically. This awareness enables prevention rather than just treatment. Start implementing these rules immediately. This week, walk through your home with the replacement test in mind. Identify 10 items you would not replace if they disappeared. Sell, donate, or discard those items. Notice how it feels removing things you don't actually want. This month, implement the 24-hour rule for all non-essential purchases. Track how many purchase desires survive the waiting period versus how many evaporate. The data reveals how much spending is impulsive rather than intentional. This quarter, count possessions in 3 categories that tend to accumulate. Clothing, kitchen items, and media or entertainment are useful starting points. Set maximum thresholds for each category based on what you actually use. This year, define what enough looks like across major spending categories. What home is sufficient? What transportation is adequate? What wardrobe meets genuine needs? Write these definitions down. Refer to them when temptation arises to exceed your own standards. The relationship between minimalism and money is bidirectional. Owning less creates more money, but having more money also makes owning less feel natural. When your savings account is robust and investments are growing, the urge to accumulate diminishes. The psychological need driving most consumption, the need for security and status, gets satisfied by financial strength rather than physical possessions. You don't need the stuff to feel successful, because your bank account already tells the story you want to hear. People trapped in consumption cycles often can't explain why they buy so much. The truth is usually that spending temporarily fills an emotional void that financial insecurity creates. Address the insecurity through actual financial strength, and the compulsion to spend often dissolves on its own. This creates a powerful cycle. Spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates security. Security reduces the emotional drive to spend. Reduced spending accelerates saving further. Each turn of the cycle reinforces the next. The opposite cycle is equally powerful but destructive. Spending everything creates insecurity. Insecurity drives more spending as temporary emotional relief. More spending deepens insecurity. The cycle continues until some external shock forces a breaking point. Your choice between these cycles determines financial trajectory more than income ever could. High earners trapped in the destructive cycle build nothing. Modest earners riding the constructive cycle build everything. That apartment I described at the beginning, the one belonging to someone earning $52,000 with 18 months of savings, belongs to someone applying these rules consistently. They didn't get there through exceptional income. They got there through exceptional clarity about what actually matters. The other apartment, the one belonging to someone earning $95,000 whose 2 paychecks from crisis, belongs to someone who never questioned the assumption that more stuff equals better life. Both lifestyles are available to you right now, regardless of what you currently earn.